Hey guys, Kirk here, and thank you for joining me on a new video on my channel. This video is going to follow up from the last video. In the last video we implemented runtime virtual textures onto our landscape, and we also created logic in which we can blend Quixel assets with our landscape as well. If you've not seen that one, the previous video, I'd recommend going seeing it, as this video is pretty much going to follow up on it. But specifically in this video we are going to concentrate on giving our mesh a nicer blend, and to reduce, if I slow my camera down, reduce that texture stretching you're seeing on the sides. We're also going to start out the distant tiling because we're using distant tiling mask for our mountains, and as you can see that tiling isn't great in the mountains, so we're going to add a little bit of logic there. And we're also going to give our master material a switch which we can enable and disable runtime virtual textures on our landscape. So yeah, that's going to be in today's video. I hope it's helpful. If it is, then please subscribe, ring the bell if you like, and like the video. It really does help me boost my channel more and get more notoriety to it. But enough of that good stuff, let's get straight into the video. So first what we're going to look at our landscape material. What I want to do is create a switch in here which we can enable and disable runtime virtual textures on our landscape, and we're going to use what's called the feature switch as well, which will be integrated with the static parameter, static bool parameter. Which will then drop down into our actual landscape material and enable and disable certain things in our material layers, well, in our distant mask. So yeah, what we're going to do first, we're going to create a little room here, and we're going to right click and we're going to type static, and we're going to look for a static switch parameter which is there, and press enter. And we're going to call this enable RVT Landscape, like so. And now we have our static switch parameter here. We do need to give it a group, so on the right hand side here you'll see I've got material instances open. This is generally how I do it, so I can switch through the material instances that I want to use. So as you can see, I've got RVT options. This is where this is a parameter, a landscape sample parameter, and that's what this is here basically. So this switch I want to put it in the same group, so if I click on it and just come drop down and do RVT options, this one is number set priority 5. I don't know why it's set priority 5. But I'm going to put the switch to the top, so I'm just going to put a 0 in the set priority, and you'll see if I apply this now, it should apply this. Oh no, it's not connected. It actually needs to be connected. So if we drag out of here into true, into the landscape output pin, and for the false, if we're not using, this is our RVT implementation here. As you can see, it comes from this blend material attribute, so if we're not using RVT, we're going to simply drag into the false, and if we hit apply, you'll notice now that we have the switch. You'll notice that parameter has gone missing as well, because that is in our true statement. So once we set this boolean to true, then this will appear again. Well, I'll demonstrate that right now. So if we enable this, set to true, you'll see that the sample parameter has come back. We're going to leave it enabled for now. And what I want to look for is our distant blend, so I'm going to quickly open our landscape material. This is our distant blend function. I've not shown this yet on the channel, but this is particularly my logic how I do it. This is a sampler node, if you like. It just hides a group of nodes to clean up your graph. If I double click on that, it'll expose this. Just forget about the input and output. This is the nodes that are inside that resampler node. I'll just come back from that, and what I want to do is enable. Shall we do this first? No, we'll carry on with the landscape material. What I'm going to introduce now is what's called a feature switch for Runtime Virtual Textures. So if I right click and type FEA, you'll see that we get our virtual texture feature switch. This is similar to a bool. It's not interactive, but what it does is if I enable this boolean or this switch parameter, it'll then drop down to this and tell this is true. So from our set material attributes, which is here, we're going to want to drag that into yes, and this will go into true. And this, well, I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll just drop a pin in here like so. We'll drag out of there and put it in no. And what this is doing basically is if this is false, it's going to drop back to our blend material attributes here. But if it's true, it's going to come to our feature switch. And you may be asking why we're using a feature switch, and it's all to do with our distant mask. What it is, if I want to, I'm going to put a bit of logic in here, so I'm going to move this up. And what I need to add is a similar node to this feature switch here. We're going to add it in our distant mask, and it'll basically, if this is true, this becomes true, and then in our distant mask the node what will be here will become true as well. So it just basically, it's just a master switch for all the landscape material. And to get that we need, I forget the actual name of it, feature level switch. Oh no. Looks complicated, that node, but it really isn't. It's just with this feature level switch, this is going a bit out of the scope of this tutorial, but with this feature level switch you can set the what's a great example, you could use this in a glass shader, and a glass shader will become available on my channel soon, but you can set whether you want to use ray traced or how much detail you want in your shader. That's what this feature level switch does, but there'll be more on that in a future tutorial. So what's the name of the node? I've actually forgot. So if I come to virtual, that's it. A runtime virtual texture replacement node. As you can see, it looks very similar to the one in our main material, but this is basically, this is what tells the distant mask that Runtime Virtual Textures is enabled or disabled. So for this, I'm going to put our standard distant tiling into the default, and this is going to go into the subtract, like so. And from here, there's a new node. It's similar to the absolute world position and camera position and all data nodes, but this is called a view data node. So if I go to view or view priority node, my mistake, this node you can enable and disable different types of, like this is field of view. You could drag off here and set different fields of view and have it enabled, not with Runtime Virtual Textures, but maybe that feature level switch, if you like, you could use this node with it. But in this view property node, we want to change it from field of view in the details panel here, and we want to change it to the virtual texture output level, I think it is. Yeah, it is. And what we need to do from here is basically drag out and get, I think it is a power node. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, power node. What the power node is going to enable us to do is to change the transition, if you like. It's similar to our distant tiling. Where is it? Here it is. So we've got our fade length, our fade, and our fade offset. So this could be the distant fade, if you like. So we could call it the RVT Transition or something. I don't know. But the only thing you need to remember is that this output needs to go in the exponent of the power node. And then we're going to get a scalar parameter. What shall I call this? RVT. What should we call it? Transition? No, it's more of a midpoint. Yeah, we change the scale in the midpoint, and for this I'm going to give a default value of 2. I'm going to put this in the base. I'm going to set this to the group RVT options. So RVT options, like so. Oh gosh, got that wrong. I'll leave it as set priority for now. What do we want from here now? So if we drag off here, we just want a multiply, I think. Multiply node may do it. Yeah, I think the multiply will do it. Basically what I want to do now is give this output, our virtual texture output level, I want to give this the information of our size of environment. So as you can see, I've got 1021. This environment was made in Gaia. There'll be tutorials on that soon as well, where we create a full landscape with the actual slope mask made in Gaia. And then we can use that in a brand new landscape main material that I'm going to make for you guys, which will be a step-by-step tutorial season thing, if you like. Let's move that back over there. But that's for the future. So our distant mask, so we need to give this multiply our information. Now for this higher scalar parameter, for this I had to research quite a lot. I was working over here for quite a few days on some sort of logic where we could use the power of 2 to reduce or increase the size of our tiles and our virtual texture, but it was a lot too complicated when this is more simple, and all we have to do in here is tell it our size of landscape, but it's only the last 2 numbers of our landscape, I think, if I remember correctly. So I've got 1021, so in here I would just need to put 21. If you're using like a 4098 or a 4K landscape or an 8K landscape, you would need to just put the last 2 digits as your default value. Don't ask me why, I don't completely know the logic behind it, but I've just seen it on the Unreal Engine forums, and I've tested it out before this video, and it seems to work. So I'm going to put RVT, what should we call this? RVT, yeah, distance. Yeah, we'll call it distance because we're telling it our distance of our landscape, basically. And then we drag our multiply into the virtual texture output of our runtime texture replace node. Let's tidy this up a little bit. I'm going to do this like so. That'll do me. So what's going to happen now if I enable and disable runtime virtual textures in our master material? It'll also change this from our standard distant tiling to this new tiling logic, which is a lot simpler than what I was working out here, and it does the same thing basically. To cut a long story short, we'll put this up here, make it look a bit neater. So we're going to hit apply and see what changes this has made to our landscape. We may have to change some UV parameters here in the material instance for our landscape. Yeah, we will. As you can see, it's all blurry. Yeah, so let's change some parameters. We want our rock near. Let's put a 1 in there. Let's look behind us actually, because this is bit of a better distance. As you can see, all this flickering you see is because the shaders are still compiling, but it's not showing me where, but they're compiling somewhere. That's what all that flickering's about. But the flickering's stopped now, which is good. So yeah, let's try and get some UV sorted. Let's reduce that back to standard. Let's do this near, so we'll put 5. There you go, let's change it a little bit. 2, 3, 5. What I'm looking at is this rock here, this slope bit, and once this becomes normal, then the more distant tiling will become better. If we put 6, 5, 0, 1, 20. I'm on the near, that's why. If we go to far, 20. Ah, there you go. 30. 0.001. There you go. 0.08. There you go. 0.06. 0.04. Looks alright. Let's have a look at the distance over there. Yeah, it looks much better in the distance there, doesn't it? Let's see what this RVT distance does. Let's put 10, 20, 21, 50. Ah, yeah, I can see it making the change. So 100. This gives it a nice blend. This thing you see in here, this line, this is the actual height fog on the environment lighting. Don't concern yourself with that. I did change the call distance earlier on today, but it is stopping me seeing that mountain proper. But the tiling seems to be alright. If I change that distance to, we'll set it back to 21, yeah, it seems to be nice. As you can see, it is a nice distant tiling that now. So yeah, that I'm happy with our distant mask and the way that's affected our mountains in the distance. Maybe I could change the size. 0.05, 1, 2, 3, 50. Yeah, it goes really blurred, so it has to be a low number. 0.1. Yeah. 0.09, 0.08. Yeah, I like that as it is there. It's really nice, actually. I do like it. I've noticed the blend. I'm getting carried away. If you've been watching my videos from the start, you'll know that I do get carried away with all these parameters. But what I want to do now is sort out our runtime virtual textures. Actually, let me just test that master material switch. So it's here. I've not set that distance. Let's go to our distant mask, and I want to set these both as RVT options. So we've got that. We've got our midpoint and our distance. So our midpoint can be 1. Our distance can be 2. I'm going to hit apply, and this should straighten up our material instance. Yeah, we'll keep it like that because I want the sampler to be at the bottom because we don't play with that enough. So yeah, we're going to hit save on our distant mask. At the minute, I'm happy with this logic the way it is, and because this is a master logic, a master function for our distant mask, it will also take effect on our other landscape material, which is a layer rock. See the distant mask is there, so we'll come off that. What I want to do now, like I said a second ago, is sort out this blending. Even though the blend is kind of nice and it wouldn't be that bad if you're in a game, to be honest, that's not bad if you're in a game, but if you are like in some RPG game, you come here for a campfire, it's not going to look great. So we're going to sort that out now by adding a little bit of logic to our mesh blend here. And the reason this is happening, this blend, is because of stretching through our normals. We just need to mask out our normals and set up a decent blend. I'm probably going to add a bit of logic, which I've not tried yet, to change the contrast of the blend. But yeah, so let's get on with the logic, shall we? Now we're in our mesh blend. What I want to do is for our object, we are using this bit of logic and we're adding it to our mask, which is here, and then we're adding a bit of object bounds logic to our mask as well. And what I want to do is just extend out of here and add some logic to this mesh blend function, and then it's just an extension of this mask, and we're just going to reduce that texture stretching and make the blend look even nicer. And it's not even that much logic, but I do know that we do need the vertex normal in world space node, and we do want to mask again. Yeah, we do need to mask on the z-axis, and then what I need to do is I want to clamp this. Clamp. But I do want to change the contrast. Actually, I'm going to change the I'm going to use a saturate node. Actually, I'm going to use a saturate node because we don't need to change our clamping anyway. We just want to reduce these massive numbers from our vertex normal. But I want to. Yeah, I did say I'll change the contrast. So we want to add our contrast before we saturate it. So we'll use a multiply node. We'll put that into our saturate. We're going to get a scalar parameter. We're going to put RVT blend contrast, maybe. Yeah. I'm going to give this a default of. Oh gosh. I'm going to give this a default of 2 to start with. I'm going to set the minimum 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'm going to experiment, so I'll give it a 10 as a maximum. I know we don't want to go too high. But yeah. But I want to get this. So this is 3. Let's have a look in our material function. We've got our RVT options here. So normal blend, what's normal blend? That's 1. Then blend height should be 3 and fade is 2. So we'll set this to a 4. So RVT options, and this is 4. Don't be confused with this. This is our mesh blend, whereas this will be the distant tiling is a completely different thing, where it'll be in our master material. As you can see, this instance is our master material, so the midpoint and the distance are there, whereas when we add our mesh blend node to our Quixel asset, this will appear here, so it doesn't matter about the priority or the name of the group. But yeah, that's our blend contrast. What I want to do now is I need to add this to our saturate. Shall we add it or multiply it? Let's reduce numbers. Yeah, let's multiply this. I'm going to multiply this with our saturate node, and then, to be fair, I think we need to flip in there. We're not flipping anywhere else, so we're going to want to rotate. We're going to want to invert this, so if we get a 1 minus node, this will make it upside down though. This will make it upside down. So we're going to invert it again. We're going to put it back the right way up. That seems fine up to now. I tell you what, I sit here looking at the logic. Let's test it. So this is coming out of our saturate. We're going to return it, set the contrast, and yeah, there you go. So we whack this straight into our alpha Like so, and let's hit apply and see what this does. May need to compile some shaders. Look, that close tiling's horrible. Let me just change that up a bit. Grass near. So I'm going to put 1 here. Oh, that's horrible. 0.121. That's a bit better to look at. I know there's a load of repetition, but for the sake of this video, it's a little bit better to test the blending out. But actually that has worked well. As you can see, that texture stretching has gone. It's not completely gone, but it has gone. And it's a much nicer blend, to be honest. So, what I will do before the end of the video, because we're nearly finished now, I will showcase where to put this function in your Quixel material. Yeah, I should have done that in the first place, reduce the tiling, because it does make it look a bit better. This asset, which is this one, I'm just going to click on this, open it, so it's this one. This is our MS default fuzz material, and this other one is just using the MS default material. So I'm going to go through both of them master materials, which are Quixel master materials, and show you where to put them. I think in the previous video I did show where to put it in the default. I'll just open this up now actually. You just simply, from your adjustments, you drag it to the input, and then you drag the output of the mesh blend into the output of the master material. Like that, it's that simple. We're not going to search, we don't need to search anything. We're going to hit apply on that one. And that function you've just seen then is just this. It's just this here. But that logic is completely fine for the blend that we want to do. Let's just test it with that contrast node. We're going to come down here. Here's our blend contrast. Let's see what this does. Yeah, it does do nothing, does it not? It's the wrong one. This is the one I need to be looking at. Look at the contrast node. You see that now? What it's doing now is it's reduced, it's got rid of the vertex normal, has got rid of the texture stretching, and adding this contrast in there has enabled us to set the amount of blend we want to get from the z-axis. This is the z-axis like this. As you can see, the blend there is quite nice. This blend is a lot more better than what we had at the start of the video, so I'd highly recommend introducing that logic into your mesh blend function. If I stop moving the camera about like a wild cat, get a proper look. I'm just checking the normals, you see. Let's increase that blend. There, as you can see, that's making it a lot nicer to blend there. So let's raise that fade up a bit. Yeah, raise the height up a bit. There you go. As you can see with this rock here, that mask, this mask here is the Z offset, the Z axis if you like, and so that's just portraying this contrast blend downwards. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. And what it's done is flipped it and inverted it, so it's got rid of the texture blending. As you can see, it's on top of this side of the rock. We'll reduce that contrast. Look at that. That is a nice blend there, guys. If we decrease the fade, as you can see, it creates that line. This has worked out really well. I'm going to reduce it down here a bit. The texture stretching's gone as well. But yeah, look at the fade. Let's raise that fade up a lot now. Let's get rid of it. As you can see, that fade can go right up, and you can increase the contrast. Yeah, it's a nice blend. Let's reduce all these to normal, the default's what we set. So yeah, I'm really happy with that blend. I just want to test the blend on this material instance. I'm going to set this to default. We're going to raise the height. Check this texture stretching. Yeah, it's got rid of that texture stretching on it. It's a bit jittery. What's the expense of this? Let's put our stats up. It's telling us our stats. Let's go on the output. Never mind. It's a bit jittery because it is quite an expensive bit of logic, this, to be honest. There you go, it's caught up now. And I'm using a 20. So our normal blend, oh yeah. I may invert that normal blend. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to my distance here. And what I'm going to do is simply to invert that, is just simply, oh, wrong one. Highlight it, duplicate it, and what this is doing is going to invert what we're doing here. We'll do that. I keep pressing search today, don't I? I'm going to hit apply on there. I'm going to do this. Let's see what happens to this now. Let these shaders compile. But at the moment, guys, what we have done, we've added our logic here to enable the switch and the feature switch to be in our master material. What we can do from here is create a function from here. So if I come down to my content drawer, go back to my main material, one's going to go here. As you can see, I've already got a function created because I did rehearse this video actually. Probably not the contrast bit here where I've added this contrast in. I just thought that now. But this, in this function, if I open it up, it's basically just this logic here, what you can see. But I'm not, it's a different name for the switch. And what I've done is I've added a material input function. So if you right click and type input, get a function input, and it will come in as a vector 3. If you come to your input type here, hit the drop down bar and select material attributes, and you would just simply need to connect that to the false and the no, like on the landscape material here. It's coming from our blend material attributes and into the no and the false. So I'm going to delete these like so. And I'm simply going to drag off my blend material attributes, and I'm going to drag into the output pin of our master material, and now it looks a lot more tidy. I wouldn't recommend putting this in a function. I've never really tried, I've always just left it, but it doesn't really look that ugly, to be honest. So I'm just going to apply that. I'm just going to save, and that's all we need to do with our master material. We can close that off. So yeah, but yeah, I'm very happy with that blend. Let's try and increase that height. As you can see, that's a nice blend. It's blending it really nice. Yeah, it really is actually. I'm going to change the fade. As you can see, the fade that's just your transition. And then the contrast is just basically the amount of the Z offset you want to add. I'd recommend setting this to a minimum of 1, because if you don't, the contrast, it will just, as you can see, if we reduce to 0 the contrast, it just gets rid of the RVT altogether with a blend. So I'd set your blend contrast that we added into here, this one, set it to a minimum of 1. So I'm just going to do that myself, set 1 on there and hit apply. And that, if I put default, should be 2, but it won't let me go below 1. There you go. Set all these to defaults because that is all we need to know now. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to comment this actually and put this can be our this could be our stretch, remove. Yeah, we'll just call it stretch remove for now. So I'm going to change to 25 on the font size. I'm going to change the colour to some arbitrary colour that's similar to that one. I'm going to go for yellow. Yeah, okay. For this simply to look a little bit more neater, I can simply drag it here like this. But yeah, that's all the logic we need to add into our blend function. So we can apply that and save it. I always like to save, cross that off. This is our master material function for the RVT. We can cross that off. Always save it to be sure. What else did we want to do? We've actually, let's just compile these shaders. Let's give it a second. So yeah, that's our shaders compiled. But yeah, as it stands, I'm really happy with that blending of the RVT there. It's a lot better than it was when we first initially started this second input of our RVT. That's definitely a nice blend. Well, that's just due to the Quixel asset itself and the way it's made. It just gives off a nice blend between the white stone and the landscape. But like I was saying before, this is our fuzz master material. We've already looked a bit earlier on at the default material, but if you've opened your material and it's a fuzz material, this is the same blend function that was diving in before, as you can see. And all you would have to do, you should have it so it's like this. You obviously won't have these pins here. This is something I've done when I added this function in. But you'll see it like this, and this will go off down here like this or something. And you'll see the fuzz. All you do is add from your adjustments and then into your material attributes of the fuzz function. And just add it like that, click apply and save, and it should be fine like it is with the default material. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with how the video's gone. If you found this helpful, then subscribe and like the video and share it with your friends. It's really helpful. But as you can see, we've got a really nice blend with our runtime virtual textures on our landscape. You can use that same technique for snow. If you want to put snow on top of rocks, you can use the same kind of technique. But I could show that in a different video, I suppose. But after this video, where we're going to go, what tutorials we're going to look at, we're probably going to start looking at putting some grass on this landscape, and I did some foliage to our landscape. So the next tutorial, I'm probably going to look at the foliage tool and how to change the parameters in the foliage tool. But our distant tiling is really nice as well. It's back to normal now. We've added that bit of logic there to our distant mask. We've added our blend to our Quixel asset and made the blend a lot nicer than it was. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful. So please leave a like and subscribe and join the Discord if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.